that we've been talking about it has relationship, it has gifts being brought to bear, it has giving, it has serving. Let's just read it. That's a good idea. Acts 2 beginning verse 42. This is after Holy Spirit's been poured out. This is after Peter preaches, and beginning of verse 42. Every believer was faithfully devoted to following the teachings of the apostles. In other words, they were like building something together. They were building a micro culture within, not even micro, because, well, it's the kingdom whose expansion will never end, according to Isaiah. But they were building a culture inside of, inside of, like, the world's culture. Their hearts were mutually linked to one another, sharing communion and coming together regularly for prayer. A deep sense of holy. So in those first two verses, we hear their hearts were mutually linked to one another. They didn't withhold covenant from one another. They didn't withhold themselves from one another. They devoted themselves to building this culture of heaven here among them. I've read that one. All the believers were in fellowship as one body, and they shared with one another whatever they had. That's giving, and that's interconnected relationships right up in there. Verse 45, out of generosity, they even sold their assets to distribute the proceeds to those who were in need among them. And that's that thing where, I said, for me, the giving is the gut check. Am I withholding my covenant relationship with those people because I'm having a hard time giving to them? Verse 46, I'm just being really honest about that one. Verse 46, they met together in the temple courts and in one another's homes to celebrate communion. Where did they meet? In homes, and together as a large body and as individual units. And I think, this is obviously, I think, the largest gathering I've been in for a couple of weeks, I think. Walmart doesn't count. For a couple.
We've been in quarantine for a week.
Have we? It feels so long.
A week and a half.
Okay,
and he brought the cookies.
For me,
you said relationship was bringing cookies, so I brought cookies.
I actually thought about making cookies, but that's embarrassing that they're not homemade. I was going to make homemade cookies.
Store-bought tastes just as good.
No, it doesn't.
Not in your life.
No, absolutely not. But
I like my sugar fake. All right, anyway.
I didn't remember what I was saying anymore. It wasn't important. They met together in large groups, and they met together in small. They were devoted not only to coming to church once a week, opening their Bible and letting the pastor teach them. They were devoted to one another, to letting their lives rub off on one another. I know I just described a very religious expression of the modern church. I did that as an irony, but there was there was multifacets to their commitment to spiritual community.
Yeah.
And then verse 47, they were continually filled with praises to God, enjoying the favor of all the people, and the Lord kept adding to their number daily those who were coming to life. Whoa, I love that phrase. I want to be such an attractional spiritual community that we open the doors, that we open the doors with the favor that we show to one another, that we foster love, that we foster covenant with one another, that we foster commitment to seeing needs met, that we establish grace. Oh my goodness, I'm so done with a church and a body where people have to measure up to something other than the absolute pouring on of the grace of Jesus, which is the only thing that we have working for us, if we're all really honest with one another. I want us to be so attractional that the Lord just can't help but pour people into us daily, those who are coming to life. I don't like what other translation, those who are being saved. That's so religious. But I love that this is life. Not that out there, not like being able to go, I want some new summer sandals. Not being able to go find some summer sandals. That's not life. It's not life to, I want to go walk around the park and take my kids to play on the play. That's not life. I want to go eat in a Mexican restaurant. That's not life. Coming to life is experiencing the fullness of Jesus not only him, but experiencing it in one another.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I think functional family. I think functional and dynamic family. My kids banging up against the wall.
Can never tell if it's the kids or the dogs.
You're
I was
right.
about to say,
it's clicky and pause-ish.
I don't know, they
One
just kind of throw their body.
Asher does on the door.
one of the
Sorry.
great
That's okay.
reasons for that is people are not going to be drawn, and one of the things it says there was that their numbers were added to daily. People are not going to be drawn to dysfunctional family. They're just not. If you look in a church and you go, gosh, those people like fighting. Those
Okay.
people like
Yeah, probably.
So I
like
disagree.
they got problems.
I
They're going to be
disagree.
drawn to dysfunction. They're not going to be drawn to
Unless they're
dysfunctional family.
dysfunctional too.
For a moment, they might be drawn to it,
Sure.
but as you drive by a wreck and you can't help but look at the carnage, I'm just being really honest and grotesque, obviously. But as you drive by and you look at the carnage, you go, "Oh my goodness, what? Oh, I'm driving. I have to look forward." It will draw people, but it's the absolute wrong kind of attention.
Well, even I mean, people, especially today, are hungry for genuineness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like so much so that they almost nominated a communist because he was the most genuine candidate. He was crazy, but I mean, they didn't care. All they saw and all they were looking for was someone who was genuine and real.
Politics in my home. Out.
The opinions
Well, that's
opinions
great.
of certain
That's
members
a-
of this small group are not the opinions of Worship Life.
Whatever. Hey,
But they
no.
probably are.
But no.
Yeah.
Hey, I rebuff that notion because we have to all be able to come together, and it has to be about Jesus, and it's not about politics. But Philip has opinions, and we accept Philip, and you accept me, and you accept Spring, and
It's not
Summer.
accepted.
I accept you.
Okay, thanks.
Baby Yoda 2020.
Yeah, it's not so much about that person as
No,
much as
it's
the
not.
example that like
Yeah.
majority of people,
Yeah.
especially like millennials and younger, like they're so hungry for a genuine thing because they've
Yes.
had kind of fake and force fed to them
Right.
for so long,
Right.
and they want the real thing, not the fruit of the real thing that's been handed down a few generations.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
so even if you have a crappy dysfunctional family, if you're genuine and real, like people are gonna be interested in it. Like I don't care. Like honestly, I don't care.
True to that.
I don't care if we're functional. Like I mean, I hope we. I want us to be.
I want us to be functional
yeah,
too.
but I don't think it's a requirement of like all the things we're talking about for us to be functional. I think it's just if we're actively working on it and like in covenant with each other, like driving towards relationship, like.
Still
People
accepting
see
each
that
other, even in your
genuineness and
faults.
like they respond to that more than they do,
Thank you.
things working well.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, we're having a special moment over here. She said, I accept you with all of your faults, and there are many of them.
And I said, I know, right? Sorry, y'all.
That's good. No,
It's good.
hey.
Family. We're family. We're all family.
I'm sorry, Mark Order.
Good. Good.
See, we were okay to be quiet over here, but you totally just threw us out there and interrupted, Philip.
No. It's good. So one of the
They don't interrupt
things...
me, I just trail off, and then it seems like they interrupt me.
Okay, good.
It's really doing you a favor, right? I'm just kidding.
Doesn't bother me.
So let's just recap some of the things that we talked about. So transparency is good. In building relationships with one another in spiritual community.
Yeah.
We have to have a place of grace and trust.
Yeah.
And like Philip just said, realness that happens within spiritual community. That's the way that we form and we grow as a family. Covenant relationships and sharing life with one another, sharing good things. First fruits in covenant relationship is a good thing. And that God ultimately desires that we would be a family that would be focused on Him and loving on one another as we work through this deal.
The idea is to get more and more functional.
Yeah.
The idea is to be able to mirror the nature and the character of Jesus within our body. The idea is to look like Jesus' bride.
Yeah.
The idea is to look like a bride that Jesus is excited to come back for.
So,
That's
but I think a lot
Whatever.
of times is the attraction is I can come in to an area that some are further ahead,
Yeah.
some are not,
Right.
and I can still be accepted for where I'm at
Yes.
and lovingly drawn to a different level.
Yeah.
Without feeling embarrassed
Right.
or feeling like I'm going to be scorned or anything else of any dysfunctional part of me
Yeah.
is going to be loved no matter what, and we're just going to walk through this together. So, like, if people come into, like, they're coming to church or they're coming to Christians. I mean,
Yeah.
when Christians are, like, not real and they're not really accepting you and they're being judgmental and they're, like, not being Christianly, it runs people away. It's like, I don't want to be part of that
Right.
because that's being hypocritical. But it's not hypocritical when it's like, you know what, you're accepted no matter what. Although we're going to love on you and help you to keep going further and not
Right.
just be stagnant.
Yeah.
When you can do that in a safe environment without feeling like you're going to be scorned or knocked down, it makes it a safer and a want to come, because no matter what kind of baggage I got going on, you're going to help me unfold that without it being I'm under a microscope and I'm going to get beat down for it.
Sure.
That all those little things are going to be seen at once, and all those little things are going to be brought to the surface, and everybody's going to be looking at it and picking it apart. No, it's going to be, no, we're just going to love you anyways and walk you through that
Where the
unfolding
where
together
the fear,
as a family.
the fear is removed. So the scripture
Right.
says that the perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with punishment.
Right.
So where there's perfect love, then there is no punishment, which is great. That's fantastic. And so that's a good thing. Let me encourage you, along with Kara, just to say for everybody that's currently watching, that these kinds of things happen. All the things that we've been talking about today happen in small groups. I mean, yes, they can happen in a large group, but what better way to be transparent than to invite somebody into your home? And for all of the people who might be of a generation that clutch their pearls with the idea that somebody is coming over to be in your dirty house, let me just say that sometimes transparency means that, yeah, huh? What'd you say?
Clean your house.
Clean your house, right? That sometimes transparency is, hey, guess what? We do functional things at our house. Like just a few minutes ago, there were kids' shoes all over the floor. Guess what? Dishes in the sink. Guess what?
We eat.
We eat.
Yes.
And so allowing people into those ports. So if you feel like the Lord might be calling you to be a small group host, to host it in your home, or maybe you
mean a believer who invites people into their lives?
Yes,
Exactly.
that thing. Up our lives to and our hearts to invite people into what God is doing through us and in us.
And watch God establish heaven among our midst.
Yes. Win relationship. So if you want to be a small group host, or if you want to go to a small group, or if you want to teach at a small group, maybe you feel like the Lord has called you to teach. Paul says you shouldn't teach, but maybe the Lord has called you to teach. Then we want to connect with you in order to be able to help you to facilitate small group. Did I catch all of that right?
If that's what you intended to say, that's awesome.
You said tonight was a
I was
small group.
It was actually a spiritual community small group, so
Well,
we
there you
jumped
go.
straight into small group. But that's okay.
Oh, is that next week's?
It's good. We can shift for next Friday night. It's okay. It's a-okay.
Act surprised when she says it
wait, was it
next Friday
No,
night.
we can shift next
Maybe I
Friday.
got confused.
Okay. No,
Good.
I literally was not listening to you and judging what you said.
Oh, okay. I wanted to make. I mean, I didn't
Up
think you were
top, that's an
judging.
improvement.
Yay! Yay!
Yeah.
Good. Hey, everybody, have a good night tonight. Remember that even during this quarantine, that you can be family with one another.
And like 2 families doesn't always equal 10. So go over to somebody's house.
Yeah.
Invite somebody over to yours.
Let's just
Keep the old people safe.
Yeah, just keep the old people safe.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
They're
Fantastic.
Yeah, Father, thank you for just family and
Yeah.
you showing up in this weird little environment that also has all you other people here. So God, I just ask that you would just be a blessing of peace and joy and just fulfillment for everyone here and watching, and just make yourself known as we love on each other. In Jesus' name.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Good. Everybody wave at the camera.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, good night.
Everybody.